Hi, everybody. My name is Bridget Marty, and I'm a Senior Associate Director and Career Coach with the Carlson Business Career Center. Thanks for joining me for this brief video, which is going to provide you some best practices, tips, and tricks about how to prepare for the inevitable question of what are your salary expectations. And so work with me as we go through and talk about a couple of these best practices. If you're watching this video as part of our Greenlight interview and application preparation series, this is a very common checklist you're used to seeing as part of this process. You'll note in the bottom right-hand corner, one of the sets of skills that we want you to be comfortable with before you head into that job search is how to do salary research and negotiation. So negotiation will be a different video. This one is all about how to research salary and be able to give that number. As a refresher, this is addressed in another video though, but if you are applying to a role, hopefully you're going to get a call from a recruiter and they would reach out and ask for about 15, 20 minutes of a call. If it's more than a 30-minute call, I would treat it definitely like a first round interview, but a recruiter screening is typically a little less formal. It's more of a conversation where the best practices for preparation, do that company research, know what the company is all about. The recruiter's job isn't to sell you on the company. You want to let them know you know how to do your research. Prepare that 2-minute tell me about yourself so you're comfortable talking through your resume and how your skills apply to this role. Know why the company is interesting, know why the role is interesting. Also a time though to prepare questions you might have about the company or the role. You can share those with the recruiter. And then finally, always review that position description, look at those key verbs so you can understand the transferable skills that they're seeking. And have a couple of those star stories just ready to go. You're going to go into that recruiter call feeling a little more prepared and confident. And the next piece is being prepared for a salary question. When you apply online, you might get this question. When you're in a call with a recruiter, you might get this question. Now, more and more companies are being transparent with their salaries, and they're posting that. In Minnesota, that is becoming a law in about 6 months. And so that's great. That works it to the candidate's favor. So first, always check that position description. Also, see if the position is posted in a couple of other areas. Sometimes it's posted on the company site and a national job board or an industry job board. Depending on the requirements of the posting requirements for those job boards, they might actually have to post what the salary is in a different spot. So go ahead and snoop around. You might be able to find what that salary range is. If you do come across that range, kind of generally, if you meet those qualifications, you're going to be targeting about the middle of that range, typically. I know you want to get the most money. Everything's negotiable, but for the most part, you're targeting the middle. If you exceed those qualifications, then you definitely have rationale to be placed towards the higher end of the range. This is also a moment, though, for you to kind of check yourself. If you are very, very overqualified for this role, as in like you exceed these qualifications extensively, this might not be the correct level for you. So that is something that you'll want to talk about with the recruiter to say, I see you're looking for 4 years of experience. I'm coming in with 8. Is this the right position for me in the organization? Because you want to get leveled appropriately. And so that's just a quick reminder of that. But when you are having this opportunity to talk with a recruiter, also note they are not trying to trick you. What they're trying to do about asking about those salary expectations is just make sure everyone's kind of on the same playing field together, that you as a candidate, are certain of that salary space you're looking for, and that's what they've budgeted. And so we're all looking for the same thing, and that you're not in completely different ballparks. Now, the harder part, what if there's no range posted? You have scoured the internet and cannot find anything. First and foremost, if the role requires a graduate business degree, such as any of the ones we offer at Carlson, please navigate to our website. We have links listed on the slide, and look at our employment reports. Students share data with us every year of what those offers are, and we can get a sense of what the market is paying that way. And we post these reports, and these reports are also available for employers to see. So you're always welcome to share a report with an employer as well. But if the role is requiring, a couple of years of experience, that graduate business degree, that's where you are, you can be targeting the range that you find on our salary reports. However, if the role does not require a graduate business degree, but many years of experience, then that also could probably align pretty well. So sometimes companies will say, 8 years of experience or 4 years of experience plus an advanced degree. So that's about equals there too. Also, you might just encounter where like this role is just looking for someone with a lot of experience, lots of these qualifications, no discussion or mention at all of any kind of degree. That can be a little bit trickier. So I would also include that you move forward and look at those, the sites that we have listed. There are numerous salary reporting sites. You have probably contributed to some of them, which is good. Nice to share information with each other. Never rely on just one of those sites. Some sites will skew a little high, some can skew low. So always pick a couple of sites, get some aggregate data so you can get a sense of what the range is that you're finding. So what we want to do is make sure that, let's say you even use the Carlson Employment Report, pick a couple of other sites too, just to kind of gut check and make sure I'm in the right range. Now, perhaps you didn't get a chance to prepare for the salary expectation question before that recruiter screen, and you are in conversation and they just need an immediate answer. This does happen sometimes. You don't expect to pick up a call and suddenly they're having a quick conversation, and next thing you know, you just have gone through a first round screen. Couple key things. Always aim to get more information. Work with the recruiter. You're wanting to build rapport. You want to work with them, hopefully, ultimately for that company. And so you can say, I don't believe I saw a range posted for this. Could you share the budget allocated for this hire? Hopefully they will respond directly back to you in the same way that you have been directly communicating with them of asking for more information. That's one way to do it. So you can the aim is to get them to give you a number first. Another option is shown in the middle of the screen is that you could say, maybe you had a chance to do a little bit of research on this. You could say, like, given my experience in this industry and what I understand of the position at this time. So it's what you know of right now. Along with my salary research, I'd be aiming for like a mid-high range, mid-high part of the salary range for a role. Though you as a recruiter are most familiar, could you share what that band or budget is for this role? So again, this one, you're showing your cards a little bit more, you're giving out that number, but you're also asking for them to kind of validate and affirm, yes, we're on the same point. And you could say, let's say you're just like, I'm going to just, be short and sweet based on what I understand of the role today. I'm looking to competitively be in this range. And maybe you're given a bigger range. Typically about a $20,000 range is what we see candidates offer. And again, you're asking them, would you agree that this aligns with the company's expectations? Have it as a conversation as much as you can, as opposed to just stating a number and moving on. Work with them to get information. So either trying to get more information about what the band is, more information about what the overall expectations of the role are. Sometimes we have candidates who will have a role that could be listed as like an analyst or a senior analyst, so there might be a couple of ranges there. Try to have a conversation with them. However, you might actually have to give an offer or a number, on an application. And we know that biggest fear is that you lowball yourself. Everyone's afraid they're going to get too low of a number, and that does feel miserable. However, everything is figure outable. So for example, let's say you complete an application, you give a range 75 to 95 based on your research. Then you earn that offer because you're a stellar Carlson candidate. They offer you 75, but you actually find out that the pay is closer to 95. You can negotiate and you can say, I noted the range of 75K, on my application was my beginning number. And that was based on what I knew about the role at that time. And again, we're always using that language of what I know of the role at this time or what I knew at that time. However, now I have a better understanding and I'd like to be closer to 95. So it kind of gives you an out in terms of if you give a range in the beginning and you're afraid that you're going too low, know that later on in negotiations, you can say, at that time, I didn't have a full scope of understanding of the role. However, now I do. And as such, I believe I warrant to be in a different spot in the band. Okay. So want to just give a kind of a classic case here of what we've seen with a candidate reaching out. A candidate was working with us. They had a screening call for a product manager role with a startup that did require an MBA. And the recruiter noted to the candidate that they verbally said, oh, as a candidate, you would likely be in that mid to upper end of the band. So they gave a verbal on that. But then asked for, what the candidate's expected pay would be. And what the candidate knew prior to the call was that the range listed in the description was 110 to 160, which is a pretty big range. And we see that more and more as companies are asked to post ranges and they really want to just make it unhelpful sometimes. So this is what the candidate knew: 110 to 160, knew a little bit about benefits, remote work. So remote work, every other Friday off, flexible, knew there were some stock options and bonuses dependent on experience and position level. So typically the higher up in the organization you go, the more there's bonus incentives. Knew that there was, some sort of healthcare, wasn't for certain exactly, what their out-of-pocket cost would be. But there would be unlimited, sick vacation plus 10 holidays. So when we have this basic information, what we can infer to this point is this is a company that's coming to the table with benefits and with a salary that I would already say is in an MBA-ish range. So MBA ranges tend to be 120 up. So we know that there's, bottom number is 110. They are closer to an MBA range, which is good. And this role does have benefits. There's often roles that don't have benefits, so that's something else to consider. But we know at this spot that this candidate, has about $50,000 range to work with. So this is what the candidate's drafted response. I couldn't record it, but what we talked about was always leading with gratitude, because this candidate was very interested in this role and excited to work with them. So he had this was a conversation, but this was the language he had built out in advance, because we don't email this stuff. We have conversations about it instead. So he said, from my understanding, the posted salary was 110 to 160. As a recruiter, you indicated my experience would fall in the mid to upper. With my understanding of pay bands for similar roles in the industry, so because he did his research, and taking into account my experience, I believe in the vicinity of about 140 is reasonable. However, based on what I know at the time, I have not yet received specific details on bonus, equity, and other variable elements. Would it be possible to learn more about that? So again, working to have a conversation. Can I ever understand more about the overall package, so that makes sure that I have a better understanding of what kind of base salary to be looking for? This made a lot of sense. This candidate comes in qualified, not overly qualified or underqualified, but well qualified. 140 is a nice middle spot of the range, but still needs to know more about out-of-pocket costs for healthcare and some of those bonus incentives. At the end of the day, bonuses, annual, payouts, good times, stock, all that stuff, that's great, but it doesn't pay the mortgage or the rent necessarily like that base pay does. So that's where we focus the most on, is working with them on a base pay. This was 2 slides in just a few minutes, but know that it took the candidate, a couple of hours of kind of just thinking about this and doing some critical thinking and research to make sure that they came back with a thoughtful response to the recruiter. And we did help them with this. And this candidate was comfortable with us sharing it with you. Also, just determining where you want to be on that range. Like I said before, you kind of hit those qualifications, you're likely looking to be about, in the first 40% or middle. If you exceed, you're looking to be closer to the top. This is pretty standard in the industry, and always encourage you to talk with your coach to kind of figure out where you do logically sit within the range. Because we're not talking about negotiating that number quite yet. That's in the next video. But again, this is just thinking about what kind of range to give and where you would like to be on a range if they have provided one. Thanks for joining us for this session. Look for the next one, which is all about how to negotiate that offer when it comes in.